Okay, so we
Okay.
are at stage 10. Okay,
Yeah.
and paragraph page 931.
Yeah.
Okay, and our last headword was guide in Newark type of lesson.
Guide.
Okay,
Guide.
guide.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. It's correct.
okay. So let's start with revision. Ready?
Okay.
Okay, let me just scroll down. Here we go. First question. What's
Okay.
the biggest sacrifice you've ever made in your life? What's the
Mm.
biggest sacrifice you've ever made in your life? The
Mm.
biggest
The
sacrifice
biggest
I've ever
sacrifice
made
I've ever
in
made
my life
in my
was
life was eating too much and got fat.
very good. Same as me. Do you always
Yeah.
answer do you always
Oh.
answer emails the instant you receive them? Do you always answer emails the instant you receive them? Yes or no?
Yes,
I
I
always
always
answer
answer
emails
emails
the instant
in
I receive
instant
them.
I receive them.
Very good. In your opinion, does instant coffee taste as good as fresh coffee? In your opinion, does instant coffee taste as good as fresh coffee? Yes or no?
No,
In
in
my
my
opinion,
opinion,
instant coffee
instant
doesn't
coffee
taste
doesn't
as good
taste
as
as good
fresh
as
coffee.
fresh coffee.
Very good. Do you believe that every piece of furniture in the house should have a use? Or do you believe that certain pieces can be purely ornamental? Do
Mm,
you believe that every piece of furniture in a house should have a use? Or do you believe that certain piece can be purely ornamental? I
mm.
believe that
I believe that every
piece
piece
of
of
furniture
furniture
in a
in a
house should
house
have a use,
should have a use,
and nothing should be
and nothing should be
purely ornamental.
purely ornamental.
Very good. What's the noun of the adjective pure? What's the noun of the adjective pure? The noun
The
of the
noun
adjective
of the
pure
adjective
is
pure is
purity.
purity.
Are there too many impurities in the tap water in the area for it to be drunk safely? Are there too many impurities in the tap water in your area for it to be drunk safely? Yes or no?
No,
There
there
aren't
aren't
too
too
many
many
impurities
impurities
in the tap
in the
water
tap
of my
water
area
of my
for it
idea
to be drunk
for it to
safely.
be drunk safely.
Very good. Okay, next. Do you believe that humans will be able to explore the whole of the universe one day? Do you believe that humans will be able to explore the whole of the universe one day? Yes or no?
Yes,
I believe
I
that
believe that
humans will be
humans will
able
be
to
able to
explore the
explore
whole of the
the whole of
universe
the universe
one
one
day.
day.
Very good. What would you do if you were wrongly accused of a crime? What would you do if you were wrongly accused of a crime? If I were
If I
wrongly
were
accused
wrongly
of a
accused of a
crime,
crime,
I'd try
I
to
try
get
to
a
get
good
a
lawyer
good
to
lawyer
defend
to
me.
defend me.
Very good. What's the distinction between the United Kingdom and Great Britain? What's the distinction between the United Kingdom and Great Britain? The
The
distinction between the
distinction
United
between the
Kingdom
United
and
Kingdom
Great
and the
Britain
Great
is
Britain
that the
is
United
the
Kingdom
United Kingdom
includes Northern
includes
Ireland,
Northern Ireland,
whereas
where
Great
Great
Britain
Britain
does not.
does not.
Very good. Do some countries spend huge amounts of money on defense? Do some countries spend huge amounts of money on defense? Yes,
Yes,
some
some
countries
countries
spend
spend
huge
huge
amount of
amount of
money on
money on
defense.
defense.
Very good. What do we call a person who writes poems? What do we call a person who writes poems? We call a
We call
person
a
who
person
writes
who writes
poems a
poems a
poet.
poet.
Very good. Okay, next. What do we mean by supper? What do we mean by supper? By supper,
By
we
supper,
mean the last
we
meal
mean the
of the
last meal
day,
of the
which
day,
could be
which will
either
be
dinner
either
or
dinner
something
or
small
something
that we
small
eat
that we eat
before going to bed.
before going to bed.
Very good. Do you think it can ever be morally right to tell a lie? Do you think it can ever be morally right to tell a lie? Yes or no?
No,
I
I
don't
don't.
think
It can
ever
ever
be
be more
morally right to tell a
right
lie.
alive.
Very good. What's the difference between a permanent job and a temporary job? What's the difference between a permanent job and a temporary job? The difference
The
between
difference
a
between permanent
job
job
and a
and a
temporary job
temporary job
is
is
that
that
a permanent job
permanent job is one
one that can
that
last
can
for years,
last for years,
whereas a
whereas
temporary
a
job
temporary job
only
only
lasts for a
lasts
short
for a short
or
or
limited
limited period.
period. Very good. Okay. What's the difference between permit and permit? What's the difference between permit and permit? The difference
The
between
difference
the
between
words permit
the words
and
permit
permit
and permit
is that
is
permit
that
is a verb,
permit is a verb,
whereas permit
whereas permit
is a noun.
is a noun.
Very good. How old must a person be before they're legally permitted to drive in your country? How
Mm.
old must a person be before they're legally permitted to drive a car in your country? A
Mm.
person
A
must be
person must be
years
18
old
years old
before they're
before
legally
they are
permitted
legally
to
permitted
drive a
to
car
drive a
in
car in
my
this
country.
country,
Very
in my
good.
country.
Do you think that's reasonable? Do you think that's reasonable? Yes or no?
Yes, I
You
think
think that's
that's
reasonable.
reasonable.
Very good. Okay, next. Is it sometimes necessary to apply for work permit before one is allowed to work in a foreign country? Is it sometimes necessary to apply for a work permit before one is allowed to work in a foreign country? Yes. It's
Yes, it's
sometimes
sometimes
necessary
necessary
to
to
apply
apply
for
for
a work permit
work permit
before one is
before one
allowed
is allowed
to work in a
to work
foreign
in a
country.
foreign country.
Very good. Okay, next. Okay, here we go. When you go on holiday, what kind of scenery do you prefer? When you go on holiday, what kind of scenery do you prefer? When I go on
When I go
holiday,
on
I
holiday,
prefer
I prefer
what kind of scenery?
is a seashore
Scenery.
scenery.
Very good. Do
Mm.
you think that admission to museums, art galleries, etc. ought to be free and that the government should pay to maintain such places? Do you think that admission to museums, art galleries, etc. ought to be free and that the government should pay to maintain such places? Yes or no?
No,
I don't
I
think
don't think
that
that
admission to
admission to
museums, art
museums,
galleries,
art galleries,
etc.
etc.,
ought to be free
ought to be free,
and that the
and that
government
the
should
government
pay
should pay to maintain
such places.
such places.
Very good.
Mm.
Okay. What was the old sign for a barber shop? What was the
Mm.
old sign for a barber shop? The old
The
sign
old
for a
sign
barber
for a
shop
barber shop
is a
was
red
a
and
red
white
and
striped
white
pole,
striped pole,
which was hung
which was
outside.
hung outside.
Very good. And what did the color red represent and why? What did the color red represent and why? The color red
The color red
represented blood
represented blood
because in the old
because in
days,
the old
the
days,
barber,
the
apart
barber,
from
apart
cutting
from
hair,
cutting hair,
also used
also
to
used to
perform
perform
small
small
surgical
surgical
operations.
operations.
Very good. What do we use elastic bands for? What do we use elastic bands for? We use
We
elastic
use
bands
elastic
for
bands
wrapping around
for
things
wrapping around
like
things
banknotes,
like
etc.,
banknotes,
in
etc.,
order to keep
in
them
order to
together.
keep them together.
Very good. What's the difference in structure between the verb encourage and discourage? What's the difference in structure between the verbs encourage and discourage? The difference in
Difference
structure
in structure
between the
between
verbs
the verb
encourage and
encourage
discourage
and
is that
discourage
we
is that
encourage
we
someone
encourage
to do
someone
something,
to do something,
whereas we
whereas
discourage
we
someone
discourage
from
someone
doing
from
something.
doing something.
Very good. If a friend of yours said that they were thinking about traveling around the world alone for a year, would you
Mm,
encourage them to do it or discourage them from doing it? If a
mm,
friend of yours said that they were thinking about traveling around the world alone for a year, would you
mm,
encourage them to do it or discourage them from doing it? If
mm.
a friend of
If
mine
a friend of
said
mine
that
said
they
that
were thinking
they were
about
thinking about
traveling around the
traveling
world
around the world
alone for a year,
alone for a year,
I'd
I'd encourage them to
to
do
do it.
it.
Very good. Okay. Why should Callan Method students not feel discouraged when they make mistakes in the lesson? Why should Callan Method students not feel discouraged when they make mistakes in the lesson? Callan Method
Other
students
method
should
students should
shouldn't feel discouraged
students shouldn't feel discouraged
when they make
when they
mistakes
make
in the
mistakes in
Callan
the
lesson
current lessons,
because making
because
mistakes
making
is the
mistakes
necessary
is a
part
necessary
of the
part
learning
of
process.
the learning
The
process.
students learn
The
from
students
the
learn
teacher's
from the
constant
teacher's
correction
constant
of
correction
their mistakes.
of their mistakes.
Very good. Which do you think is the most graceful animal in the world? Which do you think is the most graceful animal in the world? I
Hmm.
think
I
the most
think
graceful
the most
animal in the
graceful
world
animal in the world
is
is peacock.
the peacock. Very good.
Hmm.
Okay, next. What's the basic meaning of the word liberty? What's the basic meaning of the word liberty? The basic
The
meaning
basic
of the
meaning
word
of the word
liberty
liberty
is
is the
the freedom
freedom
of an
of an
individual
individual
in a
in
society.
society.
Where's the Statue of Liberty? Where's the Statue of Liberty? The Statue
The
of
Statue of
Liberty is
Liberty
at the
is at
entrance
the
of New
entrance
York
of New
Harbor.
York Harbor.
Describe it. Describe it, please.
Hmm.
Okay. It's a huge statue
It's a huge
of
statue
a
of a
woman
woman
representing freedom,
representing
which
freedom,
was given to
which are given
America
to
by
America by
France. In
France.
her right
In
hand,
her right
she
hand,
holds a
she
torch,
holds a
etc.
torch, etc.
Very good. Why do most people keep a torch and supply of candles in their home? Why do most people keep a torch and a supply of candles in their home? Most people
Most
keep a
people keep a
torch and a
torch and
supply of
supply of
candles in their
candles
home
in their
in
home
case
in
there's a
case
failure
there's a
in their
failure in
electricity
the
supply.
electricity supply.
Very good. Okay. Do you ever feel tempted to move to another country permanently? Do you ever feel tempted to move to another country permanently? Yes or no?
No,
I
I
never
never
feel
feel
tempted
tempted
to move to
to move
another
to
country
another country
permanently.
permanently.
Very good. Okay. What's the classic way of tempting a donkey to move? What's a classic way of tempting a donkey to move? A classic way
The correct
of
way of
tempting a donkey
tempting
to
a
move
donkey to move
is by tying
is
a
by
carrot
tying a
on a
carrot
piece of string
on a piece of
to the
string
end of a
to
stick
the end of a stick
and hanging the carrot
and hanging
a
the
step
carrot
away
a step
from the
away
donkey's
from the
nose
donkey's
so
nose
that he is
so that
tempted
he is
to move
tempted
forward
to move
to
forward
eat it.
to eat it.
However, as the
However,
stick
as the stick
is
is
fixed to the
fixed
donkey,
the
the
donkey,
carrot
the
remains
carrot
out of
remains
reach,
out of
and so
reach,
the donkey
and so the
keeps
donkey
moving
keeps
or walking.
moving or walking.
Very good. When you visit a place of historic interest, do you prefer to be shown around by a guide? When you visit
Hmm.
a place of historic interest, do you prefer to be shown around by a guide? Yes or no?
Yes,
When
when
I
I
visit
visit
a
a
place of
place of
historic
historic
interest,
interest,
I prefer to
I
be shown
prefer to be
around
shown
by a
around by
guide.
a guide
Why? Why? Because?
because I can hear detailed explanations about the place of historic interest.
Very good. Okay, and that's the end of our revision. Very
Okay,
good. Let's have new word.
okay.
Okay, so let's have the first word. Again, repeat. Engineer.
Engineer.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word engineer is a noun. It is a person who has scientific training and who designs and builds complicated products, machines,
Mhm,
system, or structures. For
mhm,
example, the kind of work an engineer does is connected with the building of machines, houses, bridges, ships, airplanes, etc.
mhm.
Let's practice. What
Okay.
kind of work does an engineer do? What kind of work does an engineer do? The kind of
The
work
kind of
an
work
engineer does
an engineer
is
do
connected
is connected
with the building of
with the
machines,
building of machines,
houses, bridges,
houses,
ships,
bridges,
etc.
ships, etc.
Very good. Next, repeat. Grateful.
Grateful.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word grateful is an adjective. It is the feeling of showing thanks.
Mhm,
For example, the kind of gift I'd be most grateful to receive for my next birthday would be an iPad. Let's practice.
mhm,
What kind of gift would you be most grateful to receive for your next birthday? What
mhm,
kind of gift would you be most grateful to receive for your next birthday? The
mhm.
kind of gift
The kind
I'd
of
be
gift
most
I'd be
grateful
most
to receive for
grateful
my
to
next
receive for my
birthday
next
would be
birthday would be Apple Watch.
Apple Watch. Very good. To keep track of your health, right?
Yeah,
Very good. Next, repeat urgent.
urgent.
Very good. Okay. The word urgent is an adjective. It means very important and needing immediate attention. For example, if a parcel or document is marked urgent, it means that the person who's sending it wants it to arrive or to be attended to as soon as possible.
Mhm.
Let's practice. What
Okay.
does it mean when a parcel or document is marked urgent? What does it
Mm,
mean when a parcel or document is marked urgent?
mm.
When a parcel
When a
or document
parcel or
is
document
marked urgent,
is marked
it
urgent,
means that
it means
the
that
person who's
the
sending
person
it
who's sending
wants
it
it to arrive
wants it to
or
arrive
be attended
or
to
be
as
attended
soon as
to as
possible.
soon as possible.
Very good. Next, repeat explode.
Explode.
Very good. Okay, listen, the word explode is a verb. It means to burst.
Mm,
For example, if the police believe a bomb was about to explode in a public place, they would
mm,
clear the area as quickly as possible.
mm,
Okay, let's practice. If the
mm,
police believe a bomb was about to explode in a public place, what would they do? If the
mm,
police believe a bomb was about to explode in a public place, what would they do?
mm.
If the police
If the
believe
police
a
believed
bomb
a
was
bomb
about to
was
explode
about to
in a
explode
public
in a
place,
public
they
place,
would clear the
they
area
clears the
as
area
quickly as
as
possible.
quickly as possible.
Very good. Next, repeat precious.
Precious.
Okay, listen, the word precious is an adjective. It means
Mm,
rare and worth a lot of money. For
mm,
example, the precious metals that are usually used to make jewelry are gold and silver.
mm,
Precious also means very valuable or important. For example, a
mm,
person's most precious possession isn't always the ones that worth the most money.
mm,
Let's practice. Is a person's most precious possessions always the one that's worth the most money?
mm,
Is a person's most precious possessions always the one that's worth the most money?
mm.
No. A
No,
person's
a
most
person's
precious
most precious
possession isn't
possession
always the one
isn't always the one
that's worth the
that's
most
worth
money.
the most money.
Megan, which precious metals are usually used to make jewelry? Which precious metals are usually used to make jewelry? The
Mm.
precious
The
metals
precious
that are
metals
usually
that are
used
usually
to
used
make
to make
jewelry are
jewelry
gold and
are
silver.
gold and silver.
Very good. Next, repeat hesitate.
Hesitate.
Very good. Okay, listen, the word hesitate is a verb. It means to pause before saying or doing something because of doubt or uncertainty. For
Mm,
example, I sometimes hesitate to say what I am really thinking because I'm not sure
mm,
if I'm saying the right thing.
mm,
Let's practice. Why do we sometimes hesitate before doing something?
mm.
Why do we sometimes hesitate before doing something? We sometimes
We
hesitate
sometimes
before
hesitate
doing
before
something
doing something
because we are not
because we
sure
are not
that the
sure what
consequences
the
might
consequences
be.
might be.
Very good. Next, repeat pump.
Pump.
Cyclist.
Cyclist.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word pump is a noun.
Mm,
We use a pump to force liquid or gas from one place to another.
mm,
For example, we have an air pump, a water pump, or a gas pump.
mm,
Cyclist is a noun. It means a person who uses the bike, bicyclist. For
mm,
example, a cyclist should always carry a pump on their bicycle so that if they have to mend a puncture by the side of the road, they can pump up the tire afterwards.
mm,
Okay, let's practice. What do
mm.
we use a pump for? What do we use a pump for? We use a pump
We use a
to
pump
force liquid
to force
or
liquid
gas
or
from
gas
one place to
from one
another.
place to another.
Very good. Why should a cyclist always carry a pump on their bicycle? Why should a cyclist always carry a pump on their bicycle? A cyclist
A
should
cyclist
always
should
carry a
always
pump
carry a pump
on their bicycle
on their
so that
bicycle
if
so
they
that
have to
if
mend
they
a
have
puncture
to mend a
by the
puncture
side of the
by
road,
the side of
they
the
can
road,
pump up the
they can pump
tire
up the
afterwards.
tire afterwards.
Very good. Next, repeat reproduce.
Reproduce.
Reproduction.
Reproduction.
Very good. Okay, listen. Reproduce is a verb. It means to produce something that is the same as or very similar to something else.
Hmm,
For example, there are 50 people attending the meeting, so I will need 50 copies of the document. We
hmm,
need to reproduce 50 copies of the document.
hmm,
Reproduction is a noun of the verb reproduce. For example, we need 50 clear reproductions of the document.
hmm,
Let's practice.
hmm,
The most cheap printers have trouble reproducing colors correctly. The
hmm,
most cheap printers have trouble reproducing colors correctly?
hmm.
Yes. Most
Yes,
cheap
most
printers
cheap
have
printers
trouble
have
reproducing
trouble
colors
reproducing colors
correctly. Do
correctly.
you prefer to see good reproductions of famous paintings hanging on the wall in a house or
Hmm.
original paintings by less well known artists? Do you
mm,
prefer to see good reproductions of famous paintings hanging on the walls in a house, or
mm,
original paintings by less well known artists?
mm.
I prefer to
I
see
prefer to see good
reproduction
reproductions of
of
famous paintings
on the
hanging on
on
the
the
wall
wall
in a
of a house.
house.
Very good. Okay, next
Okay,
repeat. Let's have one more. Two.
okay. A tube,
Squeeze.
squeeze.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word tube is a noun. It is
Mm,
something that is close to the one end and has a small hole at the other, usually
mm,
with a cover used for storing thick liquids. For
mm,
example, a
mm,
toothpaste tube.
mm,
Squeeze is a verb. It means to press firmly or to force something out, especially liquid, by pressing.
mm,
For example,
mm,
when we brush our teeth, we squeeze the tube of toothpaste and put the paste on the toothbrush.
mm,
Okay, so let's practice. Are you
mm,
the type of person who squeezes a tube of toothpaste in the middle, or do you always squeeze it at the end? Are you the
mm,
type of person who squeezes a tube of toothpaste in the middle, or do you always squeeze it at the end?
mm.
I'm the type of
I'm the
person
type of
who
person
squeezes
who always squeeze
a
it
tube
at
of
the
toothpaste
squeeze a tube of toothpaste
at the end
at the end of
of
uh,
the tube.
oh, always squeeze it
At the end.
and at the end.
Very good. Okay, so now let's move on to reading.
Okay.
Okay, our reading is at stage 9, paragraph page 732. Okay, and the last
Yeah.
word was about for days and days. Okay, start with the fourth sentence. Fourth question.
Okay.
Are you in the habit of leaving your
Uh,
clothes
okay. Are you in the habit of